Our stories are important. Since the dawn of time, they've been our compass, helping us make sense of life, learning from one another, and finding our way through complexity. I'm Nicolette Lazarus, and I'd like to welcome you to the Share More, Worry Less Truthcast. By sharing anonymously, women are able to speak honestly about experiences that are rarely talked about, without embarrassment or fear of judgment. Join us in listening, in recognizing ourselves in each other, and in realizing that what we carry is often shared. This is a journey of female solidarity, a journey we call womanship. Some experiences are difficult to speak about, not because they're rare, but because they carry fear, shame, or a real risk. In this episode, our guest reflects on how violence entered her life suddenly, how quickly everything changed, and how blocking everything out in order to survive became the immediate priority. Research shows that most sexually violent incidents are never formally reported, and that many women wait a long time before reaching out for support. Not because they don't understand what happened, but because fear, danger, and practical realities can make silence feel safer. This is a conversation about the aftermath of violence, the shock, the isolation, and the long stretch of time where getting help can feel impossible, even when it's desperately needed. It's also about what it takes to eventually reach for safety, support, and finding your way back to yourself. I know that not many people in your life know about your story, so maybe we can start with you sharing a little bit about the strength within you that inspired you to speak today, and why you chose to do so anonymously.
First, thank you for having me and for letting me use your platform to share this story, and hopefully it helps some other women in similar position. I genuinely cannot say if there was one thing that actually brought me that strength. It's true, it's been a decade since it happened, and I didn't dare to say anything to anyone, not even the close people to me, up until a year and a half ago. I think the thing that helped me the most was my therapy, specifically EMDR. I think that is the thing that gave me the courage to open up. And yes, anonymously, because we're not done with therapy. There's still work to be done. And I think that in this case, the importance is the story and what happened after that and the overcoming of it, not specifically me.
So what I'd love you to do is just tell a little bit about yourself, about your background, give us a little insight into who you are so that we can then talk about your story.
Yeah, well, what is important to know is I'm 29 years old, and quite important also for this story is to realize that I come from a Kurdish family with quite traditional values, culture as well, not westernized, let's say, in the manner of basically being taught to be a certain type of person, of a woman, without going over any lines put there for you, any boundaries. Do live currently in the Netherlands. I moved here to study and then stayed for work, working in marketing, which is really helping my creative side. I think that is also helping a lot with my healing, being able to express myself in my work. And as hobbies, like I said, poetry is one of them, but reading in general and photography are also a big part of the things I love to do.
So you mentioned that you were Kurdish. So tell us a little bit about what that meant from a family perspective for you.
Big part of that was being born a woman, and I did have quite a lot of responsibility put on my shoulders at a young age, like that I had to learn to cook, clean. Basically, I had to be built into a housewife material. That it's great if I want to study, but that's only so that I'm more desirable for an arranged marriage. So you had to get married as soon as possible once you come of age, but then stay away from all kind of male friends or acquaintances up until that age. Hierarchy was also a big thing in Kurdish families. Basically, males come first, and then per age. So don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positive things also in that culture. It teaches you a lot of teaching you being to be a housewife is also teaching you to be independent and not relying on anyone or anything. You know, you can do it all. It's also teaching you a lot of empathy, a lot of positive, let's say, lessons.
So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story. I know that it involves an ex of yours.
Mhm.
So maybe you can start at the beginning and tell us about your relationship and how things developed from there.
So yes, the situation for which we're going to talk about happened over 10 years ago. I was 19. It was a brief relationship, but still, let's call it a relationship. For around 6 months with this boy. Let's call him George. So George and I met completely spontaneously through mutual friends, nothing special or Disney movie style. And we just kind of hit it off. It was charming. I was young, let's call it this. And I didn't have much experience in relationships in general, or even much experience with boys flirting with me or anything of the sort. It wasn't difficult to grab my attention at that time. So we started dating, and like I said, pretty brief relationship, which ended for the main and sole reason that I did not want to be intimate, regardless of the fact that I was already 19, and that was considered apparently age that I should be already not just ready but also experienced. Um, like I said, I'm coming from a different culture, so I was not ready, and
So was
that's why
he
we
from the
split up.
same culture?
No, he was from a different culture. I would not be mentioning exactly from which culture he is, but more westernized culture.
And you say that you didn't want to be intimate, but did he pressure you on that?
Only verbally while we were together. I didn't realize that it was a pressure at that time, to be honest, because I just assumed, okay, it felt like it was a child that really wanted a toy for Christmas, basically. Come on, are you sure? Let's try, and so on. This was going on, of course, for months. And obviously, at the end, at least I assumed that we ended things in a very clean way, let's say this way, because I just said, okay, I realize your needs, and that is absolutely okay. So you can just take your path, find someone to fulfill those needs. That will not be me. So it's also not fair to you to stay in that relationship when we want different things. So that's how we ended.
And personality wise, did you feel at any point in those 6 months that you were together that there was any danger to you, or did you feel unsafe in any way? Were there any signs of what might happen?
Completely honestly, now that I think about it, there were red flags, but at that time, I didn't realize at all. I didn't take those red flags as danger. I took them more as, okay, this is not the person for you. You have to step away from that relationship. But nothing in me said, this is a person you have to be scared of or look out for. Absolutely nothing.
Any examples that you can give of things that you now look back on as being red flags?
Yeah, well, of course, the verbal pushing for getting what he wants. There was a lot of guilt tripping, such as saying, I'm being loyal to you and I'm not cheating, and you're still not giving me anything I want. Um, there were, of course, situations where even in a friend environment, in front of other people, he would say things like, yeah, I'm probably the only boyfriend in the world who is going above and beyond for his girlfriend and not getting anything in return, using phrases that I think is best not to mention here. Just certain passive aggressive comments, sometimes made in the manner of a joke, which I think I just ignored. In all fairness, I grew up with an older brother and with a father who were both very overprotective,
Right.
and I was I realized way late in life. I realized that I was raised in basically a golden cage where I was this precious little daddy's girl that he wanted to protect from everything that is going on in a country that doesn't hold our kind of traditional cultural values.
It's interesting how our parents and people around us can so often try and protect us from things, and yet the knowledge of them is what we actually need as well.
Exactly.
So, can you go back to the days around or leading up to your attack and tell us what happened?
Well, to be honest, the days leading to the attack, absolutely nothing special happened. I didn't have any communication with George. It's not that I blocked him or anything like that. Like I said, I assumed everything was very clean break because we didn't have any fights or even attempts from him to approach me in any way.
So,
So I
how
just
long
had
after the breakup did this happen?
It was around 2.5 weeks after the breakup, so pretty recently after. I was a second year student at that time, so I was just going to university. I was at a stage of my studies where I would spend very long days in a laboratory. I was studying to be a chemical engineer, so quite often I would have also late nights. I was living alone at the time, and yeah, in the 6 months of being together, of course, he knew my schedule to pretty detailed extent. But yeah, prior to the accident, absolutely nothing unusual, not in my schedule, not in my daily routines, anything like that.
And so, do you want to walk us through what happened that night?
Yes. So that day I had again I was all day and lab since the morning, and my hope was to be done around 8 p.m. and then to go home. Where I was studying and where I was living was the opposite ends, a big city, so I had to take the metro home. Unfortunately, the experiment that day just took longer, so it was around 11 p.m. at night when I finally was able to leave. I was able to catch the previous to last metro, and sometimes the last doesn't even come, so I was really happy. That was my biggest moment that day. I remember I was feeling lucky that I managed to get on this metro. So the metro was almost empty, there was almost no one, and where I was living was basically at the end of the metro line. I just got out of the metro and I had earphones on, I was listening to music, completely oblivious that, hey, maybe it's night, maybe I should be more alert. Like I said, I grew up in a very safe environment.
We should be allowed to be safe. I think we posted something a few days ago about how women feel in terms of their safety, asking men and women the same questions. And, it's wrong that we should have to look out for our safety more and we should have to be more aware.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also watched the comments on that post, and it's interesting. I was so happy and felt so good to see that there's women who don't feel this way. But then it kind of took me down memory lane where I had a time of my life where I didn't feel this way. And then something actually did happen because I was not on alert. I'm not saying that everyone has to be on alert, of course. Ideal world, no one will have to. But unfortunately, I also don't wish anyone to have that kind of memory because of not being prepared in a sense.
I know, for example, I will not walk down an alleyway if it's a shorter cut home for my safety. I will often carry my keys in my hands in the past.
Exactly.
Just in case. And that's something that I'm on high alert to. And I know that a lot of other women are as well. So you're walking home, your headphones on, you're in a good mood, you've got your research done.
Yeah, I was actually I was exhausted, of course, but I was in a really good mood. It was a Friday, so I was like, oh, weekend, I can relax finally, I can rest for a bit. I had big plans for the weekend with friends as well. So it was a good day, it was a good evening. And at some point, while I was switching through songs, I could hear voices behind me. So I got a bit confused. So I took off my earphone and I turned around and I saw three guys. I recognized right away one of them, which was George, and then I recognized the other two guys were friends of his. So I started having a bit of a weird feeling, but I thought, okay, it's people I know. What could happen? Maybe they're just playing around. So I decided that I'll just ignore it. I will leave my earphones off, no music anymore, just to be able to hear what's going on, but I will ignore, not engage. So I kept walking and I started going out of the metro station. I had to walk up these stairs and they started increasing their speed, started calling after me even more and more. Things like, hey, where are you rushing for? Here, this late, stuff like that, calling my name. And I just kept thinking, I don't even know why at this time, why I thought maybe it was some kind of a survival instinct that it's better to ignore. I'm just
Your
not.
gut, your gut was telling you there was something wrong with that situation. You felt it.
I felt that something was not right. Also because I had this thought, three people I know, I spent time with, I celebrated things with, been in a relationship with one of them. So that if they were in any way having good thoughts, they would just come to me and say hi, maybe, or maybe even ignore me if they're mad at me. Something didn't feel right. This wasn't their usual behavior. But I still didn't think that that would be what would happen. I genuinely didn't think that. So by the time I got to the top of the stairs, they managed to reach to where I was, and the two boys, his friends, grabbed my hands so I cannot move, and they started. Um, the first 5 minutes, I don't even remember exact words. I just started hearing yelling at me, and quite angry voices, but also quite mocking type of a tone. Uh, my my ears, my brain, maybe they cleared up. I don't know if it was even 5 minutes, to be honest. Maybe it was less. It just felt like 5 minutes. But it cleared up at some point, and I started hearing they pushed me to the ground. There was absolutely no one anywhere. Everything was closed, dark. There was not a single soul anywhere. I remember I was trying so hard just to hear anything. I was hoping for anything, any noise from anywhere, for some kind of a hope. But they put me on. George was standing above me while the other guys were holding me, and he was screaming at me. The other guys were also telling something, but I don't remember at this point. I only remember George just being above me with this very malicious, hate-ridden face and just screaming at me, saying things like, "Let's see how your father will sell you if you're not a virgin anymore." Um, and You were saving yourself, well, not anymore. Just things like that. It was just so. I have never seen so much hatred in anyone. It's like um, that. Um, you think that that would freeze me, or I don't know, maybe from the fear or something like that. But it was the opposite. I was fighting as much as I could. At that point, I've been training my entire life. I've been doing different kinds of sports, and one of them including boxing. But still, I didn't manage with three of them there.
Of course, of course not. I mean, it's strange in these situations. They say you do one of two things, and I think it's hearing women's stories who've done both, and it hasn't helped either way.
No,
It's just a natural reaction of what your body does in terms of whether it's a survival instinct to fight or there's a survival instinct to just stay still and not be hurt, and both are equally as valid. And
what was what was very interesting at that moment, I've heard, well, mostly in media, of course, movies, but also some people say when you're in some kind of a danger situation, you see your life flash before your eyes, or maybe in that situation I would have seen the relationship or something like that. But no, all I could see at that moment and feel was so much shame and guilt, saying, just hearing things in my head, like just this voice saying, "Why are you here so late? Why are you alone? Why would you put yourself in that position?" And years later, from everything that happened, from all the details that maybe blur at one point or another, that guilt voice just never went away. And if I'm being honest, I'm still working on it. It's still not completely away. I was so I was so scared that this entire thing will bring shame to my family. That was, and that are thoughts that came to me before even the whole thing was over, while everything was happening. They were ripping my clothes off, and all I could think about was how will my family feel if they find out. And it's it's really not nice thing to say, but all I could think about at that moment, my brain was basically having like a pros and cons list of, is it better if I survive this or not? What would be less shame? And it's not nice because your body is fighting, but your brain is kind of losing hope at the same time. And you don't know, are you supposed to fight that battle outside with those people that are attacking you, or are you supposed to fight that battle inside at this moment?
wow.
You're torn. You're completely torn. And so much is happening in your brain, in your body. So much is happening at the same time. It's crazy to think how much is going on
Yes.
in this one body at that one moment.
And trying to process everything and make sense of everything that's happening, which is so out of character for situations that you've been in before.
Everything is happening so fast, but yet it feels like an eternity to you.
Slow motion, I've heard this kind of almost.
It's it's like, but it's not even like I am laying down. They have pushed me on the ground and basically ripping me apart physically and emotionally. And I can literally see the entire scene from the side. It's like this out of body experience. It's like your brain is trying in some kind of, I still think it's survival mode because it's like your brain is taking you out of your body. It's like, don't feel this. You can see it, but you don't feel it because the more you feel, the worse it will be.
Right.
The next day I had so many bruises and scratches and all of those things all over my body, which I didn't feel at all because I think the brain is just trying to protect you from that physical pain.
So sad. Yeah. So you were down on the ground, and they're all attacking you.
Yeah.
And three of them were attacking you.
Well, in all fairness, both of his friends were just holding me, and he was the one ripping my clothes or touching or anything like that. He had brought the other two guys to just hold me. I remember the moment his hands were on my jeans, and he opened my button and my zipper and started pulling down my jeans. I think that was the moment my brain just shut off. Like everything just shut off, and I also stopped fighting. It's like my brain was. It was also a bit of a uh, the instinct of thinking about uh, my female health, thinking about that fighting might cause more physical damage than letting go, which maybe doesn't sound very warrior-like or very strong woman-like, but at that moment, I just lost hope.
Maya, you're an incredibly strong woman. But it's interesting when you're talking about this switch between the fight mode that you were in and then going to the mode of almost acceptance of the situation that you were in because you physically couldn't do anything. I
Yeah,
mean, being held down by two guys is something that I hope very few women ever have to experience in their lives.
I was absolutely certain that that was it. So I said to myself, just try to stay still so that you have the least damage possible from a gynecological perspective, and then you'll just deal with whatever happens after. And my brain was try to get yourself out of this mentally. Try to not be present, or you will not survive this mentally.
The disassociation that we hear so much in these stories.
So I just kind of accepted it. And the moment this happened, I remember I heard the last train, the last metro. And you accept it and you don't have hope, and yet somewhere in the back of your mind, you're like, there's only one person on that metro for this station. Just one person is enough. And you don't think about that one person fighting them off, or literally just as much as you're scared of those three people, you also kind of realize that they are scared, that they are not courageous, and that the pure noise of a person coming that way would be enough. So you just literally sit there and you just hope for that last drop. And you know that's the last train, that's the last metro. There's literally no other chance. It's either this or nothing. And luckily, they were not very smart because we were literally in front of the stairs of the metro. It's not like they pulled me into an alley or even a bush, nothing. We were right there next to the big street.
It's strange how your brain goes into it could have been worse had they pulled me into an alley or had they made it more private, going into like the psychology of their brains, which I guess is something that we don't talk about very much. But you've started talking about what you thought their psychology was at the time.
Well, in all fairness, I didn't think of that at the moment. This just through the years of trying to process this and thinking back on that time, I would think how lucky I was that it wasn't this, because there's a lot of what ifs that you start thinking about. What if is a big, very, very big part of the time after, and I think it will stay forever.
Especially for women, we question ourselves and second guess the whole time.
Yes, for everything. So what if will never go away? But there's so many what ifs that you start thinking about those things, and it's later that I thought about this. But I believe that I still had it somewhere in my mind because I held to that hope of there being someone in that last metro, and I was lucky enough that there was. There was actually a couple of people somehow,
Right.
which is 1 in a million chance in that last metro. I remember the two guys that were holding me, they started screaming at my ex and saying, "You have to go, there's people coming. Come on, let it go. Leave it alone. It's not worth it." And he just that hate just didn't go away. It was just so much there that he was absolutely 100% ready to ruin his entire life for this one, let's call it vengeance for lack of a better word, even though I don't know what he would have to be vengeful for.
But it's interesting that you say ruin his entire life when you didn't say anything about what happened to you. It's only very recently you started sharing and talking about it. Do you think it would have been different had he actually managed to perpetrate this act that he was trying to force himself on you?
I cling to that hope that that would be the case. But if I have to be completely honest, I still think that the most shame would be on me as a woman. But my experience and what I've seen from friends, colleagues, and just in general women's stories is that I would still have to be the one to bear the most shame.
I just find it so sad that women take it upon themselves when they're attacked, that actually they're the ones who feel shame. So, did these people come and help you? What happened when he realized that people were coming?
Well, at some point, they convinced him and they just started running, to which I was just this body of ripped blouse and opened and already pulled down jeans on the ground on a winter day. And I heard footsteps. So a person was walking up the stairs. It was a man, um, middle-aged, around 40, 50-year-old man, who saw me and he froze. He got really scared. Also, if you see something like that at night, there's a lot of thoughts that can cross your mind. Things like me being drunk or being high on certain substances. So
Your empathy level is incredible that you're thinking about what other people would think about the situation.
I think that's the upbringing I come from. You are taught to think about what would people say about your family name. Family comes first, especially how people see that family, how you present yourself. I think that has a big part in that.
Okay.
But yeah, he was literally frozen for a while, and I was just there shaking. And I remember he looked around and he saw my jacket somewhere. I genuinely don't remember where it was thrown. I never got the name of this person. I don't know who he was, but I will forever be grateful because he just took my jacket, brought it to me, and covered me with it. He didn't say a word. He didn't ask if I need help. He literally was just silent there, put the jacket on me. He didn't touch me uh, while he was putting the jacket, so completely kept a distance. He looked around after that. I'm guessing probably he looked if there's the people who did it somewhere or something like that. And I gathered my things. I think it was some kind of a purely automatic muscle memory on what to do, but I
Right.
don't even remember how I did it. I took my blouse, I took my bag, and just started walking home. And I remembered he was walking behind me, but I didn't feel unsafe by that. He was just silently walking behind me until I got into my building, and then I saw from the window that he just turned around and
Okay. So how did you feel when you got home? What were the next days like? What was going through your head?
well, that night I showered 11 times. I was scrubbing and scrubbing to the point that I got wounds all over my body, but I didn't cry.
Okay.
I guess I didn't process yet or something like that because I didn't cry. Um,
Anybody? You didn't think about reporting this? Again, the shame was too much.
I was actually scared that it will come out. I was so sure I didn't want to tell anybody. I was scared it might come out. And the next day, like I said, it was weekend that was coming up, and I had plans with friends, canceled everything, and I made excuses. I lied to them that I will be going to my hometown. I lied to my parents that I'm staying because of a big project. Just lied to everyone. Kind of locked myself because I was so worried that someone might find out. I skipped classes for the next entire week, scared that someone might. It's winter; they will not see anything all over my body, but I was very scared that maybe my look or body language, anything.
Hmm.
So I just and I cried a lot that week.
Okay.
At some point, I did finally cry. I did not sleep at all. I remember I was locking my door so many times and didn't dare to go out, even for groceries, even during the day. At some point, I was starving. There was nothing home, but I didn't even dare to order food because I was thinking I live alone. There will be a delivery guy. What if he figures out that I live alone? All of those things that I never in my entire life I thought about till something happened to me. And then suddenly I was thinking and overthinking and just going in circles of what should I do? How should I do it? How can I continue my life? It was this solution mode, but at least 4 times more cautious than I've ever been.
Yes, because you've never had to face those things before. So now I guess, you look at every situation, whether what could happen from a negative point of view, I can imagine,
Yeah,
rather than the way when you don't have that weighing on your mind.
yeah. There
So,
was
sorry, go
there
on.
was years before I was able to appreciate the fact that things didn't go further because my brain was only going into the scenarios. What if there was no one in that last train? What if they didn't run away? What if they have managed to pull me somewhere where it wouldn't matter if there was no? There were so many negative what ifs that I was just drowning and drowning for years.
So how did this affect your life from that moment on? I can't imagine what it's like to continually have these thoughts and trying to live a quote normal life or be the person you were before and not being able to share it with anybody.
Well, at first my brain went into a solution mode. I changed my entire life routines. I changed a lot of things on where I go, how do I go, until when. All of those small things. I grew up, basically grew up. And once I had a solid routine that made me feel safe, it went fine the first couple of years, honesty.
Did you see him again?
I never saw him again after this happened.
Have
I've
you?
never to this day seen him.
Okay, and he's never reached out to communicate. You've never seen any of those people who are involved.
No, none of them, not a single person of the tree. Of course, I've also never asked because I didn't want to hear or know. Denial was my saving grace.
Okay.
I was just trying to live a very well structured and safe type of life without thinking why I'm this way now. But fortunately, all of that worked only until 2015, 2016. Everything changed then. Denial was no longer an option.
So, what was the lowest moment that you've experienced?
The lowest moment, now that is a bit difficult to admit. I am a person who, when it comes to suicide, has believed two things. That a person who manages to do that has to be extremely courageous. However, I've always believed that this person has to be also quite selfish to be able to do that while knowing what it would do to their loved ones.
And especially because you have such a strong family bond as well.
Yes, and yet with all that I grew up with, all that bond, empathy, guilt, and shame, one day, um, that was after my father passed away, and I remember at some point, without my mind even realize, it's like I had no control over my body. Just started turning the wheel towards the right, where there was a big ditch in part of the highway where you literally will fly off, and just started driving there and thinking how much easier it would be, how it will end everything, all the pain, all the panic attacks, all the looking over my shoulder constantly. I would not need to feel safe because it will be over.
It's so brave you talking about that because I think those thoughts of ending it to escape a situation, to escape your own brain, is something that I think so many people feel at one point in their life. And I think it's very brave to talk about that feeling and what you were going through. So thank you.
This was genuinely my lowest point in life.
But you decided not to.
I literally last minute, I stopped the car, I got out of the car because I got scared of my own thoughts, of how far my own mind can take me.
Well, it's interesting that you recognize that your brain was or your mind was telling you certain things, but it took you a long time to actually reach out and get any professional help. So therapy, I guess, plays quite a significant role as to why you're even here talking to me today. What was your route to actually deciding that you needed external help?
Um, well, therapy was always a no-no option for me. It's considered quite shameful and it's a very taboo topic, even though I am a generation that is quite knowledgeable and informed when it comes to mental health. You cannot escape that easily uh, where you come from
I
and
completely understand. Yeah.
how you've been raised. Yes. So that was a complete no option in my mind. I was like, I cannot do that. This is absolutely no. So I avoided it. Interestingly enough, the passing of my father made me this protection over the years. That triggered panic attacks and nightmares. I was dreaming every single night of the attack. I didn't have that until my father's passing. And then suddenly, my father's, passing and this helplessness that I felt just triggered those nightmares over and over again, and then panic attacks, and it was getting worse and worse. And yet therapy was not an option. So I lived almost 7 years with those nightmares and panic attacks.
Wow. I can't imagine how debilitating that is, and also how much energy that takes if you, on one hand, trying to live, quote, a normal life, but always having to carry this unshared burden with you.
Well, it wasn't the healthiest choice, but I moved to the Netherlands to study again and then to work. I decided to really go on an insane schedule. I was studying full time and working three jobs, some of them night shifts, just to avoid sleeping, sleep as little as possible. And then Corona happened, and working that much was not as possible. Avoiding being home alone with your thoughts was not that possible. Things started getting worse. At some point, I met my current partner. He's now my fiance, and I I genuinely don't know what it was. Once we started dating, I just had this feeling, this safety that I felt when my father was alive. Um I just somehow felt that safety with my partner.
I'm so glad.
And that kind of broke me apart to the point that I couldn't avoid therapy anymore.
So, did you share with him what had happened?
Yes, he was the first person actually ever in my life that I dared to share what had happened. We were on the couch watching television, and I genuinely don't know why I chose that moment. I don't think I chose it, to be honest. I started crying, and he was asking what's going on. He was asking if I may be in pain, and I just kept saying no. And he was asking, okay, why are you crying? I remember I said, I don't know, with this like howling voice. And then I said, I'm lying. And I just felt this wave of shame again, was very close to not telling him. It took hours on that couch of trying to say it. I remember I asked him to turn around because I was scared that I will see so much shame in his eyes or judgment that I would stop mid-story or something. And I was like, I just want to tell you everything, and if you decide that you don't want to be with me anymore, I will understand, and I'll pack my things and go. And yeah,
Had you
that's
thought
how I
about
told him.
telling him before? Had you thought maybe I tell him and held back from it, and then it just all of a sudden came out? Or was it just something that came completely out of the blue, the idea of telling him?
It completely came out of the blue. I never absolutely even for a split second thought about telling anyone. I genuinely thought I will take this to my grave and I don't want anyone to know
Yep.
ever. And in our situation, it's not just us. My partner has 2 kids from his first marriage. So I think I just also took over kind of that responsibility, and I started thinking, I need to be better, not just for him
Right.
now. It's not just us.
Yep.
It's a family situation. And I was waking up at night and he would hear me wake up and he would see panic attacks and he would ask, and I was like, oh, nothing, just stress at work,
Right.
or just make up excuses all the time.
And this is from someone that you love. So it's interesting how our brains work, even in terms of keeping things to ourselves.
And someone who's been through therapy, someone that I know that has done this for himself, that is coming from a westernized culture, that would understand, would not shame.
Yes.
And yet it was my own shame and guilt stopping me. It was not other people.
Yes. So was he one of the reasons, or did he suggest that you do some therapy around this?
He didn't dare to suggest because, of course, more or less he understands that I come from a different culture and knows to a certain extent what that culture is like. However, he offered first that I can talk to him anytime I want or need, and it was very, very sweet of him because he offered to also have, since it comes to, it's about an intimacy type of a situation. He, of course, offered to have a deep talk regarding my boundaries and if I need for us to do certain things different, things like that. It was super sweet.
Very considerate.
Yes, absolutely. And then I just blurred again. Everything was out of the blue that day. Nothing was thought through, which is very rare for me. But I just blurred, I think I need therapy.
Okay.
I need help. I just turned and I said, I need help. I can't go on like this.
So how did you choose what kind of therapy to do?
Well, I didn't really choose. So I actually asked him, how do I do that? In my case, so I went to my general practitioner, I explained the situation, and they recommended that I would go, it's a whole clinic, it's not just one specialist. And in that clinic, they do a lot of tests, interviews, and things like that to figure out the core of what needs to be worked on. But once they know that, they can actually refer you either to a specialist within their clinic or if you need a specialist that they do not have, for example.
And so you ended up with EMDR.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yes. So after a lot of tests and interviews, my diagnosis was 2 things. One was PTSD, specifically for more than one trauma. It wasn't just the attack. They found more traumas that I needed to work through, basically, that was piling up like a Jenga game through the years. But they also found that I have something called prolonged grief disorder,
Right.
which is, turns out that it's fairly new and is quite often misdiagnosed as depression, and people are given antidepressants because it is misdiagnosed. PTSD is that is the reason that I got the EMDR to work through PTSD. One of the reasons is EMDR has a faster success rate in a sense than prolonged therapy. And since my situation was with nightmares and panic attacks, we needed to make sure that as soon as possible this will stop. It's with a moving light that is going left to right in different speeds. So what they do is they put this in front of you, and first they ask you to close your eyes and not remember the incident, but relive it.
Wow.
So you close your eyes and they ask you certain questions for you to remember very specific details that you basically start to feel again, everything, every touch. Sometimes they use smells that they can trigger you to be able to go back to that moment. And once you're back in that moment, you open your eyes and you have to follow that light. While you're following the light, the therapist keeps talking to you about that moment, repeating what you just said, that you felt, that you smelled, that you hear everything. So you keep reliving it in your brain while following the light.
Right.
And it is excruciating physically and mentally. You just relive that moment over and over and over again. To be completely honest, I was very skeptical, especially after my first session. I was like, this is torturous. Uh, this is extremely painful. I don't want to do it, but I also don't know if I can physically survive it. But basically, what happens is the way they explained it to me is while your brain is following this light, your brain cannot focus on so many things at the same time. A big breakthrough in the EMDR moment was I remember the lamp was green and George's eyes were green. So every time the therapist, she would do a green light, all I could see was his eyes. I just couldn't get this image out of it. And a really big breakthrough was the moment I didn't see that anymore. I just saw a lamp. And after my third session, I actually stopped having nightmares.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, automatically my panic attacks also stopped. And it was a huge game changer for me.
So, when the journey of healing that you've been on, what moments or realizations have made you feel most empowered, even despite this situation that happened?
Well, accomplishing 2 university degrees was something that I was extremely proud of. Not to mention that I moved to the Netherlands completely alone, no family, no partner next to me. And I can proudly say that I made it. I have an amazing job and a great, incredibly supportive partner. It took 30 years to find him, but I got there. Now that I think about it, I don't think I would have been able to now call myself someone's fiance if I didn't open up fully. He is still, besides the therapist and, well, now you, the only person in my close circle that knows about this. And from a family perspective, he will stay the only person. I will not tell my mother or my brother ever about this. Telling my mother at her fragile age now, I know it will bring guilt to her, worry, and so many negative thoughts and feelings after 10 years. It feels a bit selfish to do.
Again, I
As
think it's
long,
interesting, just your empathy coming through with everything that you do, thinking about how other people react and not putting yourself first. And I think that's a very courageous and admirable thing to do. And I'm so glad that you did decide to speak to somebody. So are you still in the treatment process?
yes,
Still working
so
through.
I'm still doing the therapy, and we do have other traumas that I need to work on. But I can happily say that we have moved on to the next trauma. There's no guarantee with EMDR that you will be 100%. You will not forget your trauma. You will not forget what happened to you. The point is not being afraid to remember it, not being afraid to admit it, not shivering or hiding any time it comes to mind that this has happened to you, not feeling shame, guilt. It's about being able to move on while knowing, yes, this has happened to me. This has happened to many, many people around the world, female and male. But I got through it and I moved on and I accomplished thanks to EMDR.
How has it made you feel, the pre and the post actually coming to terms with it? What's the difference in how you feel and how you operate in everyday life?
Well, I am more confident in myself. Uh, I think I will forever be cautious and I will forever look over my shoulder and be careful. But I'm a lot more confident to, for example, go out and not be scared what time I'll be going home, things like that. But also, I do feel guilt to this day, but my guilt now is more towards this 19-year-old girl that I didn't let her heal in time, that I didn't choose a different path after it happened. My guilt is no longer about why was I alone at night.
That's so beautiful. I think we don't give us enough credit for is going back and thinking about all the things that we've got over and actually congratulating ourselves for having got through all of these things rather than being harsh on ourselves and having that empathy and understanding towards our younger self. So, what advice would you share with other women who've experienced similar traumas?
I know that most people will say speak up, but I would say do it your own way. If I was pushed to speak up at 19, there's no telling if the damage would be even bigger. Do it in your own way, your own time, and the way it makes you most comfortable. It's your journey, bad or good, wrong or right. It is your journey, and there is no one else, even someone who's been through the same, that can tell you how to deal with it.
Well, that's very, very important advice. But when you're at that point, seeking someone to talk to that you can trust feels like an important part of that journey.
Yeah, I think a very important part of that journey is maybe you will be like me. Maybe it will take you a decade, maybe even more, to find someone to tell. But you really need to find an outlet for your thoughts. For me, that was writing. Just find a platform, a way where you can just let it all out. And then when the time is right, when it feels right, you will share sooner or later.
Thank you. So, if you could change one thing around the discussion surrounding violence against women, what would it be?
I would really like to change a lot of stereotypes when it comes to that. I don't think there is, as much as I would wish for, I don't think there's any way to stop violence against women ever.
That's so sad to hear.
Unfortunately, I really hope someday in generations ahead I'm wrong, but I don't see it happening. But if stereotypes such as the shame and the guilt are changed, then a lot can change in women seeking help. If that mentality of that a victim, no matter if it's violence or something else, deserves it, goes away, that would help so much with the courage to actually come true. Talk about it.
I think people find it so easy to be judgmental. I think it's important that we make sure we're always showing the empathy and understanding to listen to somebody else's experience and story and not negate it. Because if we do, we're invalidating a part of somebody's lives, and we wouldn't want someone to do that to us. So why would we do it to somebody else?
I think that's about everything, not just about violence, but in general, being able to speak up without being judged. And you're right, judging is quite a natural instinct within humans, unfortunately. Anything outside of the norm we're used to is so difficult for us as humans to grasp and to even associate with that automatically we judge. So unfortunately, that's a difficult thing.
Okay, so one thing I like to do in this, ask you what womanship means to you.
I thought about that a lot. And to me, womanship in my mind is just this, for lack of a better word, I will call it oasis. It's like a safe space. It's like you open a door and you're this uh Narnia place filled with women from all kinds of cultures, professional backgrounds that are there to just hear you out. Doesn't even need to be for support. It doesn't need to be for an advice. Purely for you to be able to share and just let go of whatever worries are on your shoulders. Womanship to me is a safe haven, something that is not that easy to find, especially online and social media world. It's a safe space for a person to turn to, and if they're not ready to share, to be able to at least hear stories that can help them or they can relate to.
Thank you. I think so an important part of what we're trying to do. And I really hope that if there are other women listening who've experienced something similar, get courage and I am so thankful for you sharing your story, and so glad that you're on the road to recovery so that this doesn't actually influence every day of your life. And I think that's so important when we go through something, to not let the past have a hold over us so that it actually influences our future.
It is a one moment in time, but it takes years to recover. That's really important to remember. You're not a failure just because it takes time.
That's perfect.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This conversation is a reminder of how deeply silence can shape a life. Not just the silence around what happened, but the silence around how long healing can take, and the courage it takes to finally share when the time is right. Thank you for listening. We hope this conversation has helped you feel less alone in what you carry, or helped you better understand another woman's experience, so that through understanding and shared support, we can move closer to the equity women need. This has been a Womanship Share More, Worry Less Truthcast.